Here.
Dukenyak.
Here.
Tolman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And tonight we have Boy Scout Troop 218 to lead us. So, boys, would you lead us, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, boys. Would everybody please take a look at the minutes of 12/4/18? And if there's no corrections, omissions, comments, or questions, we'll entertain a motion.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve the minutes of December 4th, 2018.
Oracle second. Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 4 is a council proclamation to Melody Lensmith for her service as a celebrations commissioner. Catherine, if you please read that into record.
Certainly. Council Proclamation number 18-15 to Melanie Linseth for dedicated service to the City of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission. Whereas Melanie Linseth was appointed to the Celebrations Commission in July 2014 and has served for 4 years and 4 months. And whereas Melanie Linseth has resigned from the Celebrations Commission effective November 2018. And whereas in addition to serving as secretary to the Celebrations Commission, Melanie Linseth helped to organize and joyfully participated in the yearly summer solstice, 4th of July celebration, the Giving Tree events, and the yearly Christmas tree lighting celebration. And whereas Melanie has served the city in a thorough, conscientious, and professional manner. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the common council, the city of Oak Creek, do hereby show their appreciation and gratitude to Melanie Linseth for her dedicated service to the city of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission. Be it further resolved that the proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this meeting and that the city clerk be, and she is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Melanie Linseth, introduced and adopted this 18th day of December 2018.
Thank you, Catherine. Does anybody have anything to say about Melanie? Anybody acquainted with her? If not, I'll just keep it very brief. I had the pleasure of working with Melanie. She was a great addition to... that kind of takes precedent over the mayor speaking at this time of year. She was a great addition to celebrations. She really headed up a lot of things for us. Worked very hard on those giving trees you see out in the lobby that still have tags on them, so you can pick that up. That was her doing this year. She set that all up. She will be missed, but we appreciate her service. So, we get a motion, please.
I'll move to approve Council Proclamation number 18-15 to Melanie Linseth for dedicated service to the City of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukenyak.
Aye.
Tolman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye. Item 5 is consideration of a proclamation for Tim Callis for his service as a celebrations commissioner. Catherine?
Council Proclamation number 18-16 to Timothy Callis for dedicated service to the City of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission. Whereas Timothy Callis was appointed to the Celebrations Commission in June 2017 and has served for 1 year and 5 months, and whereas Tim Callis has resigned from the Celebrations Commission effective November 2018. Whereas Tim Callis joyfully participated in the yearly summer solstice, 4th of July celebration, the Giving Tree events, and the yearly Christmas tree lighting celebration. And whereas Tim Callis has served the city in a thorough, conscientious, and professional manner. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and the common council of the city of Oak Creek do hereby show their appreciation and gratitude to Tim Callis for his dedicated service to the city of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that the city clerk be, and she is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Timothy Callis, introduced and adopted this 18th day of December 2018.
Thank you, Catherine. Anybody on the council like to say anything? If not, Tim is actually with us tonight. He is working right now in a city capacity. He's back there. He's running all our IT stuff. Tim, wave to everybody. So Tim served. He did a great job for us on celebrations. Again, I was fortunate to be acquainted with him. He worked very hard at summer solstice, 4th of July, you name it. we needed help, he was always there. Not only does he serve the city in the capacity as a volunteer, he's a resident, and he also works for us. So again, thank you for your service, Tim. Motion, please.
I'll move to approve Council Proclamation 18-16 to Timothy Callis for dedicated service to the city of Oak Creek as a member of the Celebrations Commission.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Okay. We have a couple public hearings coming up. Item 6 is a consideration by Camp Bow Wow to amend the existing conditional use permit to allow parking to be sited 30 feet from the right-of-way. Catherine, would you like to read that in?
Certainly. Public hearing number 1 is to consider request submitted by Brett Ippolit, Camp Bow Wow, for an amendment to the existing conditional use permit to allow parking to be sited 30 feet from right-of-way in conformance with current code requirements on the property as part of the dog daycare and kennel operations affecting the property located at 8411 South Liberty Lane. Applicant is Brett Ippolit, Camp Bow Wow, property owner, DDA Oak Creek LLC, care of Brett Ippolit. Legal description there follows. Date of notice is November 14th, 2018.
Thank you, Catherine. Doug?
Thank you. Good evening. I am Doug Seymour. I'm the Director of Community Development for the city. And this is the first of 2 public hearings this evening, this being a proposal to amend the parking setback for the property at 8411 South Liberty Lane from 40 to 30 feet. Bit of background. Back in 2006, this property was granted a conditional use permit for essentially a dog kennel and an outdoor dog area. And at that point in time, the zoning in the M1 zoning district was the base zoning district, had a minimum parking setback of 40 feet. Since that time, that parking setback has been reduced to 30 feet. But however, since the conditional use permit was applied for under the prior setback, there was specific language in the code that required it to be 40 feet. So this amendment to the conditional use permit adjusts that minimum parking setback to be consistent with the current requirements for 30 feet. This is a public hearing. I'd ask that anyone has any questions or comments regarding the proposed change to this conditional use permit affecting the minimum front parking setback to please approach the podium, give your name, address, and proceed to address your comments or questions to the Common Council. This public hearing is now open.
Thank you, Doug. As Doug stated, it is a public hearing, and we'll be making 3 calls. This will be the first call. Second call. Third and final call. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach podium and give your name and address. We will now close the public hearing and move on to item 7, which is consideration of that ordinance to readjust conditions and restrictions. We'll open it up to the council for questions, comments. Nothing?
Seems pretty uncontroversial, Dan.
Yep. Doug gave a great explanation of it. That's pretty much how it went at planning too. This is nothing more than just an adjustment to what should be done. So if there's no further questions, motion on 7.
Clerk moves that the council adopt ordinance 2924, an ordinance to amend the conditions and restrictions in ordinance number 2904 to allow a parking setback of 30 feet to the right-of-way as part of the existing conditional use permit for an animal boarding, kennel, dog daycare facility with outdoor exercise area at the property at 8411 South Liberty Lane.
Dukenyak, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Item 8 is an official map amendment along Robert Road, Oak Lane, and Shepherd Avenue to improve the right-of-ways. So, Catherine, would you like to take that one, please, and read it into record?
Certainly. Public hearing number 2 is a hearing is to consider a proposal by the City of Oak Creek to amend the official map for a portion of the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 28, north-south East Robert Road to East Oak Lane, and west-east East Oak Lane to Shepherd Avenue, mapped, unimproved, rights-of-way affecting the property at 10025 South Shepherd Ave. Property, there follows the legal description. Date of notice is November 14th, 2018.
Thank you, Catherine. Doug?
Thanks again. In August of this year, the council upon Plan Commission recommendation, approved a certified survey map that created 4 lots for development and subdivision development along Shepherd Avenue. And at that point in time, that was done in accordance with the official map, which showed future streets running through the property, the city-owned property, as you see depicted on the slide in front of you this evening. At that point in time, it was the council's commitment that the 4 lots that were being created by CSM were really the only development interest that the city had in conjunction with the school district, and that there was no intention of further subdividing the property. And this is the commitment, following through on a commitment that the council made to present the official map for adoption, which removes these streets. So in essence, I mean, there would have been, as you can see, North-South Street connecting north from, I think, Oak Lane, as well as an Oak Lane connection to Shepherd Avenue. Those, if the council concurs, the official map would be amended to remove those streets. So this is kind of one of those follow-up items, listening to the concerns of the neighborhood, who certainly had some comments with respect to the future development of the property and the challenges that it presented. This essentially takes those official map streets off the map, and should provide some comfort, some consistency to the neighborhood that the city's has no intentions of developing that property. Again, this is a public hearing. If you have any questions or comments regarding the proposed change to the official map, if you have not already filled out a comment form and presented that to the city clerk, please do so. And once your name is called, please approach the podium, give your name, address, and proceed to address the council with your questions and or comment. This public hearing is now open.
Great, thank you, Doug. As Doug said, we will make 3 calls. This will be the first call. That's good.
Carol Burns, 510 East Robert Road. I'm the instigator here. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the neighborhood, thank you all for following through on your promise, on your commitment to our neighborhood. Just to remind you, it's very important to the safety of our neighborhood to make sure that our homes are protected. This gives me a little bit of comfort when the rains hit. Just for your record, I did go out and measure the pond after you guys started building, and it did go up just slightly. But I just worry that with the 4, that it would have been worse. So this will really help me sleep when the weather gets bad and nasty. So on behalf of my neighborhood, who I don't know if there's anybody else here tonight with me, I did put something on Facebook. I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope that you pass this. So hopefully I'm not thanking you prematurely.
Thank you very much. Second call. Anybody wishing to speak? Third and final call. We will now close the public hearing and move on to item 9, and that's consideration of that ordinance to redo the official map. Questions, comments? Steve?
Alderman Kirkowski, I think, but just by virtue is that I was in the 1st district, and we sometimes go numerically, unofficially. I may have been the first one to suggest that we come up with something like this, but I'm not going to take the credit at all, because it seemed everybody on the council agreed that we could do something here. But the credit goes to the city staff that made this happen tonight. So, Carol, you're welcome. I'm glad we could come through with something, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Ken?
Thanks.
I went blank totally.
Thanks, Mayor. Just for the audience's sake, obviously this is the second hand of this kind of arrangement the city struck. Obviously, utilizing some surplus property to cooperatively act with the school district to provide a good program for the nice construction program. And this act on our behalf and staff driving this removal of this street pattern obviously should give some comfort to the neighborhood that their concerns about the native area and their impacts of storm-related and stormwater-related activity will be mitigated, and hopefully we can all obviously move forward and coexist and have a fine and good outcome here.
Anyone else? No, like I say, this was highly vetted out when it came about rezoning those 4 properties. It really was a neighborhood reaction that helped us prompt and make these moves. And again, they are the right moves, and we really wanted to assure the area that we had no intentions of developing it further. So with that, I will ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2923 to amend section 6.01 of the municipal code of the city of Oak Creek, amending the official map for a portion of northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of section 28. And that's it.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Okay. Item 10 is consideration of a landfill request license for the property located at 1701 West Putes. Catherine.
Public hearing number 3 is a landfill license for the property located at 1701 West Putes Road, specifically described as the west 20 acres of north 40 acre of northeast quarter of section 19-5-22, accepting the westerly 914.20 feet thereof, and accepting parts deeded for highway containing 3.371 acres. Landfill application is made for the period beginning January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, the granting of which is now pending. Applicant is Sam Lenda, dated this 28th day of November, 2018.
Thank you. Mike, you taking it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll just explain the topic, and then, as Doug always explains, questions will be fielded after that. So, yes, the applicant, 1701 West Putes Road, Sam Lenda, came in, talked to engineering about the possibility of getting his the landfill license to create 2 berms on his property. I think we have a graphic on that. Please. The reason for the application is the I-94 project that's happening. That's, of course, the expansion of I-94. It's going to create an outside lane, both northbound and southbound. This would affect the southbound lanes, bringing the traffic 1 lane closer to that residential property. In the process, the state has to do quite a bit of grading to accommodate. So applicant has already lost a significant vegetative buffer between the traffic on the interstate and the house. And he had worked with the DOT to arrange for them to deliver excess spoils excavated as they do the construction project, and that's not uncommon. And wanted to have them shaped into berms, get them vegetated, and recreate the buffer and get some additional landscaping. So nothing objectionable as far as engineering can see in this, and so we support the application. And as you'll see on the graphics, we would work very closely to with that landowner to make sure that he's not negatively affecting the floodway that you see, or the floodplain, I should say, it's not floodway. The floodplain that crosses his property. You can see it kind of straddles the drainage way. So that's really it. There was a further request that with the ordinance that there's a requirement for a $10,000 bond for landfill license. Applicant was asking if that could be waived, and from an engineering standpoint, we don't have an objection to that. It's not a excessive amount of soil. It's all being delivered to the property where he resides. It's not off on a vacant lot somewhere that it may be abandoned or the work suspended. So no real concerns there.
Thank you, Mike. This is a public hearing. We will make 3 calls for anybody wishing to speak. This will be the first call. Sam.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the Common Council. My name is Sam Lenda. I am the property owner, along with my wife, at 1701 West Putes Road. Reason we're asking for this landfill permit, as you know, the I-94 corridor is going in. We had to give up 10 feet of our property on the east side for the widening of it. And as a result of that, they're resloping the grade, taking down all the vegetation, moving the fence back. So what we're asking for is the spoils that come off there gives the opportunity to build a berm, plant it with prairie grass onto it, and then arborvitaes and other scenic trees to act as a barrier. Because all of the barrier that was there was taken away, and it's going to be regraded as a slope that won't allow any of that. It's just going to be grassed in, so that's why we're asking for that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Second call, anybody wishing to speak? Third and final call. We'll now close the public hearing and move on to item 11, which is consideration of the motion to approve the landfill license. Questions, comments from the commission? Council? Nothing? Okay. In my view, perfectly reasonable request. I see no problem myself waiving the $10,000 fee either. Without a doubt. Actually, it's probably an improvement along I-94 to put that in, and environmentally the right thing to do. So I don't vote, but I am fully for it. So there's no other questions or comments. Motion is, yes, motion.
Guzekowski will make a motion at the Common Council to approve the landfill license for Savan Lenda located at 1701 West Putes Road. Tax key number 857-999.
Oracle second.
Before we take a vote, I'd like clarification if we're going to waive that $10,000 fee.
Yes. Just a comment, it's not a fee, but it is a bond. So,
A bond.
So if everything goes well, even if the bond was in place, that money would be returned back to the property owner.
But
So
are we gonna
not foregoing $10,000 in revenue?
Are we going
Just
to
a bond that
require
we
the
would hold.
bond? I guess that's the question. Would you like to amend the motion?
Yes, to amend the motion to waive the $10,000 bond.
Second
Second.
concur?
Yes.
Okay. Then the motion is to allow the landfill and waive the bond. Roll call, thank you.
I've got one question, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Does the building permit fee, does that protect us against any, 'cause that would still have to be applied for, right? Versus the bond?
You're referring to the land use building permit?
Right.
That is a no-cost permit.
Okay,
That is required when grading work is happening adjacent to floodplain. It carries requirements that there's certification that the floodway is not negatively
that was
impacted.
my question. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Great. Thank you. Item 12 is consideration of a resolution authorizing payment bills, debts, and obligations. So, Bridget, go right ahead. I thought you were just
Sorry, I
going to
didn't
take.
want to speak
I thought
out
you were
of
going to take it
turn.
right on over.
So with the vacation of the first Common Council meeting in January, we go through this process asking for us to still operate with our payment of bills as if there were a council meeting on the 2nd.
Any questions for Bridget regarding that? It's pretty much standard when we do recess from meetings in January and July. If not, motion.
Gail move to approve resolution 12022-121818 authorizing payment of bills, debts, and obligations.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Item 13 is consideration of a resolution approving a third amendment to the City of Oak Creek Marketing Magazine Services Contract. Got that one.
I'll take
Leslie.
it. Good evening. This is a pretty standard contract. We bring this back every year to renew our contract with Barb Capriel Marketing for the publication of the Oak Creek Current magazine. Nothing has changed. Our contribution towards the publication is remaining the same this year, despite the fact that we've lost a few stakeholders in the publication. She is able to make up for that loss with the ad revenue at this point. So pretty standard, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions for Leslie?
Leslie, who are those stakeholders that we've lost as part of
We
that
have
magazine?
lost Whiz Park, the Fortune Flair, and the Emerald Row. So right now it's just us, the school district, and MATC.
MATC, thank you.
Here, Leslie, I've always had this problem with the magazine and the fact that there isn't a page or anything ever devoted to certain youth community sports groups. And I understand that they would have to be on their A game and get stuff done early. But in this particular venue, I'd like to suggest that that we suggest to the editors and the like that we reach out to the youth sports programs such as youth football, wrestling, Little League, soccer, and see if they can't be a part of this so that they can get more participants. And obviously, you couldn't, like for example, Little League would have to do it in like a fall edition, and football would have to do it at a, you know what I'm saying? So if you could just again make that suggestion to them, I'd appreciate it.
And actually, any nonprofit can advertise in the Current at any time. We offer, she offers a reduced rate to advertise. So any nonprofit. So that doesn't just have to do with youth sports. It has to do with any of our community organizations. And to bend that, it gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
So.
And I think maybe they just need a little nudging. Maybe they don't know that they can do this.
I
And
believe
maybe,
Barb has reached out to most of them. So, and you know, if you have a list or if there is a list, we can certainly
all right. Thank
send
you.
that her way.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Leslie? Seeing none. Motion.
Clerk moves that the council adopt resolution number 12019-121818, a resolution approving a third amendment to City of Oak Creek Marketing Magazine Services contract.
Dukenyak, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski. Lorick.
Aye.
Item 14 is consideration of a motion to approve an additional one-time allocation of $20,048.13 from the general fund towards the purchase of a new 2018 lift truck. So, Pete's getting ready, but it looks like Bridget's taking it. I don't see.
Pete's on deck.
Yeah, so it came out of CPI, correct?
CIP, yes, it did.
CIP.
And it's definitely a unique, a
Great
unique
letters.
council
Band the
report.
1,000.
So in 2018, during the budget process and the CIP process, we were trying to spread that $1 million cash that we allocate each year to our capital items. We were trying to spread that a little bit further. And we had this lift truck from DPW that the Common Council asked us to take that into a 3-year lease to own process where we would allocate $45,000 cash for each 2018, 2019, and 2020 in each of those 3 years. Turns out it's been a little bit longer than a year in terms of the time to build said truck. So we now have 2 years of cash that has been allocated, 2018 and 2019. So $90,000. The truck came in at $110,000. So we could choose to go and go ahead and do the lease to own and pay $7,300 in interest, or we could choose to allocate this additional $20,000 from the general fund as an additional one-time cash added into the CIP situation so that we can just pay cash outright for the truck and everything is fine, which then also frees up the 2020 $45,000 payment that's out there that can go towards additional capital needs then. So I know it's a unique situation. Clearly at this point of the year, we know our permit revenue maintains being off the charts. So I am completely confident that we will have $20,000 that will be, potentially adding to the fund balance. So I'm comfortable making this recommendation.
Great. Questions for Bridget? Comments? Seeing none, motion.
Guzekowski will make a motion to approve the additional one-time allocation of $20,020,000, yes, from the general fund towards the purchase of the 2018 F-50, yes, lift truck.
Yeah, the entire budget goes to spending.
Yeah, we were done. You weren't talking about it, were you? All right.
Can we repeat the motion?
Yes. Motion to approve as listed on the sheet here. We're going to motion to approve the additional one-time allocation of $20,048.13 from the general fund towards the purchase of a F-2018 F-550 truck, lift truck.
Tobin will second.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye. Item 15 is consideration of a motion to concur with the mayor's appointment of Jennifer Lattis to the Celebrations Commission for a 3-year term. Questions? Everybody has the application. Nothing? Just before we do it, I contacted Jennifer. She's very anxious to start. I want to thank her in advance for stepping up as a citizen to serve on a committee, giving her time and experience to that. So, nothing else? Motion.
I'll move to concur with the mayor's appointments as listed.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Item 16 is a consideration of a resolution approving the Abendschein Park Master Plan, and we have Pete here to lay it all out for us.
Yep, that is me. Before I start my presentation, I just want to say thank you to my supervisor for allotting me 2 hours to give this presentation tonight. So I hope you enjoy. With that said, if you recall back in 2017, the Common Council approved a strategic plan, and one of the initiatives of that plan was to update and finalize the master plan for Abendschein Park. And so in 2018, the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Commission worked with staff to create an RFP and go through a review process, and we selected or recommended to the Common Council for approval to allow Stantec Inc. to be the consultant to work with on this project. And so what you have before you in your packets is the final plan that is being proposed tonight for adoption. One of the things that was formed was a steering committee that was made up of staff, the consultant, as well as members of the Parks Commission. And we started in June. Part of this project, before I get to the master plan, just give you a little history of how we got to here. And we had 4 public engagement events that we held. One of them was over during Dog Days. I'm jumping a little ahead in the plan here. We did do a site analysis. We did strengths and opportunities and weaknesses. You can take a look at that at your leisure. But one of the things that I always like to point out is the effort that was made by the city to engage the public when it came to updating the master plan. And there were, as I said, there were 4 events. One was at Dog Days, where we had staff out there asking for people to give their input of how do they use Abendschein Park if they go there, what would they like to see there, what would they like to see in a community park. And we also, in addition, we had a survey online that people could answer. And so some of the things that you see in the report are not necessarily things that are being proposed in the final plan. In the upper right-hand corner, you see, I don't know how easy it is to read if you're in the audience, but the top one that was talked, what do you think is need in the park? And the number 1 was community pool. And a little bit later in my presentation, I will go into explanation as to why there is not a pool proposed at Abendschein Park. Other things that people like to see change is having more events and programs at the park, improvements to the playground, have more opportunities for exercise and sports, and the list goes all the way down, as you can see in the report. And so these were things that we had to take into consideration when we were revising our plan. A second event was a scholastic reading event held here at the library. And here we had a lot of families with young children that were there that we were able to have them give us their input as to what they like to see. A third event was during the summer, we went to the splash pad. And lots of families, if you ever come down to Drexel Town Square during the summer, it is quite the crowded venue. And we were able to get a lot of input from them as well. Our fourth event was a public information meeting, which talked about the 3 different proposed designs for the park. And we had public engagement event where people could identify the things that they would like to see at the park. And one of the challenges staff had when doing this was when you ask somebody what they would like to see, they'll give you exactly what they want to hear, or what they want, which is a pool, a ball diamond, stuff like that. But the part that it's really hard when you have about 5 minutes to talk to them before they lose interest is, do you know that the Oak Creek is running through the middle of the park? Do you know that a third of the park is in the floodway or floodplain? We can't put stuff there. Do you know that we have wetlands on site? Do you know we have a 10-acre high-quality woods that we have no intent of cutting down to put large venue items in there? And that's one of the things that we had difficulty trying to explain to people, that this isn't a blank park, a blank slate. This is about an 80%, 85% developed park. We want to enhance it, want to improve it. And so those were the things that we had to explain when we were asking the questions. And so we took that input back, worked with the steering committee and the consultant, came up with 3 different plans. And they're not in the final plan. They're in appendices, which I figured you guys really didn't want to take a look at, a 55-page appendix showing all the different details we did to get to our final plan. But there were 3 different themes. One was sport, which talked about organized fields, athletics, and other organized team play on the site, and having amenities to supplement that. Second one was lifestyle, which was more of a gathering place for the community, health, and environment. And then the last one was health, which deals with exercise, walking paths, and having more of a passive recreation effort to it. And so working with the steering committee, we came up, said, you know what, we don't want just one particular theme. We actually want to have it all. And so we combined the strengths of each one of these plans into the final plan that is before you this evening. And so here up on the screen are different examples of amenities that would be proposed in the park. Now, keep in mind, this is a plan. This is a 5 to 10 year plan. And so some of these things may or may not be implemented through, during the lifespan of the plan, depending on funding circumstances. If we, have something that goes up somewhere else in the city that might impact a possible future phase of the development of this plan, which I will talk at the end of my presentation about how will we implement this master plan. This is one of the things that the Parks Commission will see a lot of over the next year, and this is the overall plan. And for those of you who may not recall, in the southeast corner of the park along Forest Hill, which you can see my cursor, that is the Barbian property. We are in the process of acquiring that between 12 and 13 acre property. That's going to be added to Abendschein Park, and so that is highlighted in the plan. You will see 2 dotted lined areas, one in the west, upper left-hand corner, and then one to the south. The purpose for those to be dotted lined is that if there's ever the opportunity or there is funding, we may wish to pursue acquiring those parcels to help future development of the park. And I'll explain a little bit later why those are identified on the plan. Overall, the plan hasn't changed dramatically from the 2008 plan. We fleshed out more ideas. We talked about how we can improve certain amenities that already exist at the park. Earlier, I mentioned about a swimming pool and a ball diamond that was desired. When we actually looked through the engineering component of adding that kind of stuff, a community pool, if you take a look up on the screen there, to To give you a comparison, I don't know how many are familiar with Hoyt Park. It has the pavilion, the slides, the swimming pool, the kiddie pool, and a large parking lot. To mimic that here at Abendschein Park, limited by what is the area that is developable. The area that's developable is the ball diamond in the parking lot and the area to the south where there is a disc golf course. It would take all of that up. So we would lose a ball diamond, we would lose disc golf if we were to try to squeeze in a community pool there. And then we have grading issues, which we could go into great detail talking about how that would complicate the matter and increase costs greatly. So at that time, when we were evaluating the plan, we did eliminate the idea of a community pool at Abendschein Park. Didn't eliminate the concept of a pool somewhere else in the city, but this was just not a viable spot, so it was not proposed in the final plan. As for the ball diamond, we are proposing to enhance the ball diamond with artificial turf in the infield, so that way you can have more play and also install some lights at the site. So now you can, instead of being, basically pinned down by the amount of daylight of how often you can play, we could actually enhance the amount of time that people can play on the ball diamond. That would be very close, if not equivalent, to having 2 baseball diamonds, but only having 1 baseball diamond at the park. One of the things also that is proposed is that the entrances to the west and to the east, that those would be enhanced. In fact, that on the west end, it's just a straight in and out. It looks just kind of like a residential driveway right now. I don't know how often you guys go in there, but if you have an event, if you attended any of the beer gardens, trying to get in and out of that entrance is very dangerous. And so we're proposing to widening it. So you have a dedicated right-hand and left-hand turn lane coming out of the park, still having just one lane coming in and possibly having a dedicated right-hand turn lane into the park. So now there's increased safety and accessibility to the park. Also, we would like to do at that entrance is to enhance it with a larger sign, maybe have some landscaping. Idea was maybe have some kind of public art or something that would signify Abendschein Park entrances right here. One of the comments that I've heard over and over, you drive past Abendschein Park, if you miss that first entrance, you just have a tree line. You don't even really see anything during the summer because the trees are full. You don't even see the ball diamond. You don't see anything because the whole front part is open ball field. So the thought was that would be in part of the phases, we would improve that entrance. And then on the east end, where the skate park is, we would also create a east entrance. So that way, when you do have a baseball game, and if as we continue to have beer garden events, you can say, go to the west entrance, go to the east entrance. So that way, we have better parking amenities that people are aware of that they can use to attend various events or programs in the park. Continuing on the north end along East Drexel, there is the ball diamond, or not a ball diamond, but a lacrosse soccer field. That's not changing, that's staying the same. But to the east and to the west, we are proposing to naturalize some of that green space and create prairie area, some walking paths, make it less maintenance for city staff, as well as provide more than just turf grass throughout that area over there. Heading down south of the pond to the parking lot, we are proposing to expand the parking lot another row of cars. We did have some parking issues during big events that were held at the pavilion or at the park, and so we would propose expanding the parking lot. To the south of that is one of a major new phase, and that is our pavilion activity area, which would include, in addition to a pavilion, which I have some pictures that explains what the concept is, it would be a large splash pad, playground, an agility course, which is something that the city doesn't have. And when I've said agility course to people, they just get a blank stare. The best way I can do it is a public, safe American Ninja course, if that gives you an idea. You're not going to have the water ponds and you're going to fall in water or anything like that, but something that would be unique in addition to our disc golf and our cricket pitches that we have there. Good thing about this plan is it only minimally impacts the disc golf course, which is one of the highest uses in the park. Having that community gathering area would only relocate 2 disc golf holes elsewhere in the park. Speaking with the park supervisor, he said that would be easily accommodated and would not be a costly thing to do. As we head to the south, to the southeast corner, the Barbian property, which we will be acquiring soon, we'll have a parking lot and an actual driveway access to the park from Forest Hill, which will be a new thing. We'll be including trails that go from the parking lot up to the existing trails and walkways that we have in the park. So now you'll actually have 3 points of access to the park, which would be a great opportunity for city residents. This parcel is being remediated. There's a house, greenhouses, if you recall. Those are being removed. It's being restored back to its natural state. It is highly wooded. There's a lot of deer there. The previous property owner says that you could just walk through the woods there and just see wildlife everywhere. It's a really neat thing to see. And she was very excited to hear that this private property was able to be acquired as public property and be able to be shared with all residents in the city.
Pete, could I interrupt for a
Yeah.
second? Did we buy that parcel already? Was that, we don't own that yet, do we?
No, we don't own it yet. The reason that is MMSD, who we partnered with, is working on cleaning up the site, getting rid of all the buildings, and if there's any contamination, they're taking care of that. And so once that's all done, they'll hand that over to us, and then we'll be owners of it. And
Is that a done deal, or is that something we have to vote on yet?
I believe the council agreed to pay $16,000 as their share of this to acquire this
I remember
parcel.
the issue, but I didn't remember if we actually approved it. Or
Yeah,
we
I believe,
did.
I believe we did, but as of this point, since the remediation has been completed, we're not going to take ownership until that's all done. So
Maybe just to remind the council and those who are viewing this, maybe shamelessly promote Pete here, but Pete, in conjunction with Phil Burmeister and our staff, we're able to minimize the investment in this new property from, I believe we were prepared to pay $600,000.
Exactly why I asked the
And
question.
when the city's investment is $20,000. So kudos to you,
Yeah.
Pete, kudos Phil.
Thank you, Doug, because that's why I asked the question, because when this property was up for sale, I mean, my first question was, I mean, there must be a lot of wetlands there.
there's a lot of floodway by the
okay.
creek and in the woodlands over there, and probably wetlands as well. But yep, what's nice about acquiring this property, in addition to acquiring some prime environmental corridor, it also helps with our stormwater management. That's why Phil and I partnered on this, because he saw benefit to deal with any type of stormwater issues. This will now take off of the public role and now be in public, and then it helps with stormwater management
Good job.
elsewhere
I
in the
like
city.
that 16,000. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and I was applying, kind of not to digress too far, but I applied for a stewardship grant for $250,000, knowing that we're going to probably put $250 plus we're going to do cleanup costs. Now, MMSD partnered with us and said they would do it. So,
Awesome.
thank you, MMSD. Okay, almost done here. Moving up along the east end of the park, we have a playground that's there. It's pretty old, actually. I believe it was the same playground equipment that was at the East Middle School before it was torn down. And so it has wood chips there. What we plan to do is create an all-age playground area. So get that pour and play rubberized surface, kind of what you see at the playground at Lake Vista. Put a whole new playground set there. In addition to that, it would have like a 1/4-mile track that goes around the playground. So if you're a jogger or whatnot, you could, push your child's stroller around the circle while the kids are playing in the playground. In addition to that, we would add some exercise equipment that you could go on. If you ever, probably the 80s, we had Vita courses in our neighborhood parks. We'd have something like that where you could actually do some exercises while your kids are playing there. So the idea is to upgrade that area of the park. To the north of it, we have a skate park. For those of you who've gone there, I mean, it's used all year long. It's, I think, the only when there's snow on there, and I think even then they come with brooms and sweep it off to go and use it. We're looking at replacing it, coming up with maybe a new style, not just maybe keep with the same ramps and what we have now, but maybe doing something with concrete, something that'd be more durable than what we have right now. So we're looking to expand that. The cricket pitch, if you've been down there, there's an asphalt strip where that's where they pitch the balls. The idea would be to enhance that, to actually make that not a natural, but a turfed area. So that way it can be graded so people can do more than just cricket. cricket is very, very popular in Oak Creek. Pretty much all summer long, it is booked every weekend. You'll see about 60, sometimes up to 100 people play cricket. It's like almost they play cricket like I grew up playing basketball, where you had your team, you played till you lost, and you got kicked out. They play, two teams play cricket. Whoever loses, they're gone. New guy comes in. They just keep playing. They play till there's no daylight. So that is what we're proposing for the park. Now, as I mentioned, it is a 5-10-year plan. We do have park impact fees to help defray some of the costs. And I'll be talking about phases in a few minutes. The phases are numbered 1 through 5. That doesn't mean they're prioritized 1 through 5. The idea is these 5 phases would make the most sense to clump together. Now, there's one that's going to be very expensive, and funding was going to have to be thought about before presenting anything to the Common Council. And so in 2019, the plan is to work with the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Commission, evaluate the amenities that are identified in this plan, and come up with a phase proposal for the Common Council's consideration, and then move forward from there. One of the things that I want to show you tonight is this concept of a pavilion. As you know, Miller Park, we have a community building. Lake Vista, we have a community building. This would be our third one. This one is not at all enclosed. The idea would be to have an open air shelter type facility that can house up to about 330 people, if I have my numbers correct. And the concept was to create a facility that could be utilized for events such as food trucks, beer gardens, or any other type of event that might be more than just bringing your picnic basket and a cooler. And so here's illustrated. This would be the view if you're in the parking lot right now, looking to the southwest. And so one end has, in this illustration, they have food trucks there. The way I would see is, we have our beer tapper for the beer wagon and maybe a vending machine, or not a vending machine, but a vending truck of some sort as a part of a beer garden event. Here is an aerial view of what it would look like. They have a seating area. The idea would be to have a fireplace on one end to provide a little, and also have a stage in the middle for any type of event. This could be a real great venue for fundraisers. Like if we have enough walking trails at Evanshine Park that you could have a 5K walk here at this point. One of the big drawbacks is we have one restroom facility and a small concession building. We really don't have a covered area that people can have headquarters or have their events staged in case of inclement weather. Here's another example of what it would look possibly inside if we were to go through it. Again, this is a concept plan. This isn't necessarily the final direction that would go through. We would need Common Council authorization to go forward with any type of design if we wanted to build another pavilion in one of our parks. So phasing, how was this organized? Well, working with the consultant came up with what they thought would make a lot of sense, that would work together. If you had applied for grants and whatnot, that it would be suitable for going forward. On this page, it's kind of hard to see if you're out in the audience, but they are color coded. Yellow is phase 1, green is phase 2, light blue is 3, dark blue is 4, and black is 5. And then the gray areas are what's existing. So here is the phasing process. Probably all this can be yours for $5 million. So I figure I'll ask that question right now, or give you that answer right now, because I figured that would be one of the first questions that would be asked. The largest component is the pavilion complex that I went into detail about, modifying the disc golf course, parking lot expansion, and the west entry drive. Figured that would be your biggest, people would recognize, see that the most. However, it is the most expensive. These are conservative numbers. This is why the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Commission is really going to dig down and drill down into this and see what is a viable phase for the city to consider. Another one is that all-age playground, updating the skate park. Here, I didn't go into detail before, but talking about wood restoration for the woods. Sometimes you got to clear out the trees. There's paths in there, stuff like that to make it more usable by the public. And not to go by each section, but there is another 300,000 and 80,000 phase. And so these are the things that we're looking at. Some of the ones that are probably the non-glamorous one is doing creek restoration. For those of you who have family that play baseball at the Hardball Diamond, the creek is starting to erode at a bend right by left field. Eventually, if we don't do something on that, it's going to be an interesting field to play on with that left fielder. You have to watch out for that first step. It's going to be a doozy. So this is the plan that we're proposing. The commission did hard work, went to Parks Commission. It was unanimously recommended for approval. We presented it to Plan Commission last month. And so at this point, I would be more than willing to take questions, but with that said, staff does recommend that the council adopt resolution number 12023-121818, approving the updated Ebenstein Park Master Plan. And I think I did it within 2 hours.
Thank you, Pete.
I beat my
Appreciate that. Before I open it up to questions from the council, we do have a citizen wishing to speak. Arden, would you like to come up?
Out to the members of the
Sure. Go right ahead, Arden.
Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania.
Arden, pull the microphone down so we can hear you.
All right, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. My first comment is that this is great for the summer, but what are we going to do in the winter? I used to enjoy ice skating when I was younger. That's not considered. The objection that I have, or the point I'd like to raise, is this article I've taken from the Milwaukee Journal. As you see, this was printed in November 25th. And on the inside page, I've got copies of their comments. And the fact that in the past, parks have been for families, for sports, and especially our young people in the schools. They need that kind of activity. And yet, according to our Board of Health, we should have lesser alcohol at events. And I see where this pavilion was called a beer pavilion. Let's take a look at this situation. This article says the fixes for Nathan's drinking problems are hard to sell. But look at this second page that I passed out here. Down the page, it says, as opioid overdoses, which kill about 72,000 people a year, grabbed America's attention, the slower-moving epidemic of alcohol accelerated. About 88,000 people die each year from alcohol. And that is my problem, ladies and gentlemen. My sister died of an alcohol overdose. My brother is afflicted, and his days are numbered with alcohol. Now, can we not consider that other groups that are regulated around the city, do we have to have city-paid employees run these alcohol events? I would say that we have to allow freedom, but not, doesn't this conflict with our Board of Health trying to increase the health of our population, and especially our young people? Exercise is what's needed, not drink. But this has always been a problem. And we are facing in our nation, as you well know, not only vaping, which produces the same thing, but morphine. It's going to, and how can we, as a community, allow our people to be addicted? So I would rather have these called snack pavilions or something else, and keep our city to try to keep addiction under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Arden. And you're right, it really would serve more as a multi-use pavilion. I think that would be a more appropriate title going forward.
Duly noted.
Questions, comments from the commission? Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman Kirkowski, First District. Abenshine's in my district, and Mr. Degner, my father died of alcoholism, but he did not set foot into a bar anywhere. He went to the party store, brought the beer home, and drank himself to death inside his house. So taverns and bars have nothing to do with being an alcoholic. They may provide it, but it certainly isn't the overall cause. And I don't think the city's going to get into the tavern business. I understand that we've had some beer gardens, and I just want to say that if you look at the plan, I went to the public information meeting here at the City Hall, and I was really impressed with the concept of the, let's call it the social building for tonight. The fact that it's set up so that if we had a beer garden event and the trucks come in and the food trucks come in, as you can see, the concept is that it's on the side of the building. But then it's also open to being rented for other facilities or for other uses. So with the fire pit and the outside seating and stuff, it truly is a multi-purpose building other than just a beer garden. And as a side note, Mr. Degner and those who care to hear this, if we had a perfect storm and we built such a building, and if we had high school baseball going on at the same time as this event was, I think there would be a problem because the WIAA does not allow alcohol to be served at a sporting event. And I understand there's a distance between the two, but if you're an umpire like myself and you do games at the Rock, they sell beer and they walk from the concession stand over to watch the game. So there would have to be some logistical issues there because we wouldn't be able to allow beer to be sold during a high school baseball game, even though there's a distance between the two. They'll still walk down and get it and come back and watch the game. But be that as it may, that part of the plan is fantastic. A lot of the other things that Pete said about the plan is I was really excited when I walked out of the meeting that night. However, that was prior to the high school referendum that was ultimately passed by the voters here, and I think some consideration either tonight or down the road needs to be taken into consideration because that referendum allowed for the construction of a baseball field over at East Middle School, moving the soccer field over to the high school property. So there is going to be a rather nice baseball field being built by the school district over at East Middle School. Turf fields, lights, everything. Nice, good sized varsity baseball field. Which leaves Abensheim, when it comes to this plan, we need to decide whether or not we're going to spend money, and if we're ever going to spend money on that ball field, because the high school, which uses it now, will generally not use it as much once they get their own ball field over at East Middle School. Now, conceivably, junior varsity and freshman level baseball could use Abensheim, and I would hope that at some point, whatever MOU is created, whatever procedures is created, that the school district, since Abensheim ball field has always been a 3-level baseball field for the baseball program at the high school, we'll now get into a position where we will charge the high school to use the ball field if the city puts all these enhancements into that ball field. That's a lot of money that we're going to spend, and I would love for the high school to utilize that nice ball field down the road, but I think there needs to be a cost associated with them using that field. But in the meantime, their high school is still going to be using Abensheim for varsity level baseball. Junior varsity will be using Abensheim for baseball. Freshman level will be using Oak Creek Little League ball field, which leads me to the next set of comments. I'll try to keep it under 2 hours, Pete. I I did get a call today from the vice president of Oak Creek Little League, and they were going to try and be here tonight. They have been, they always have been, and they are currently now in a desire to be more of a partner with the high school with regards to utilizing their big ball field. And I understand that we're talking high school and we're talking Little League, and we're here for a master plan for Abendschein Park. And I just want to ask for a little bit of leeway, because in some aspects it is all commingled, because Little League has informed me that they want their ball field to be a part of the high school baseball program. Now, the city owns the property out there at Little League. It's under a lease to Little League. And they're hopeful, and I asked if they could be here tonight, but the president and vice president couldn't get off of work. They're hopeful that the city, perhaps, because it's city property, even though it's leased to Little League, or the high school, could explore the options of spending money on the baseball field at Little League to bring it up to some standards, so that $660,000 that was targeted for Abendschein enhancement may not be needed, or may be delayed, or maybe even somewhat utilized over at that particular ball field, because right now we do only have two 90-foot ball fields in the city, Abendschein and Little League. So I say this just to put this bug in everyone's ears, is that Little League wants to be a part of this process, whether it's saving money for the city and not spending so much money at Abendschein for turf, lights. That is going to be a city baseball field, and those that want to use it will rent it. It has to be that way. It just has to be that way. And I agree with the concept of putting all those extra amenities in over there at Abendschein. For example, with spring baseball, you're going to start at 4:30, and if you don't start on time, it's going to start getting dark. So when varsity plays a 4:30 game, if there's no time limit, I would venture to guess there potentially could be some games that are suspended because they run out of daylight. So lights are a good thing, but the argument can be made: the city property that the Little League leases has a field that has lights already. So just think outside the box as to what that property over there can be of benefit to the city with regards to baseball, and that's primarily what I'm talking about, and how it can fit into the overall game plan, no pun intended, with the baseball field at Abendschein. So, I mean, there's potential there, but I just don't want them to be forgotten about, because they are going to be a part of the baseball program for the foreseeable future. I don't know what the timeline is for building that new ball field over at East Middle School, so it could be 2 or 3 years. So maybe by using it this year, we could see some benefit into that. I mean, disclaimer: I am a Little League umpire. I do love Little League, and I'm still attached to Oak Creek Little League by way of umpiring. But I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just here to give hopefully some options. I think I've covered everything on my notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
I was just going to comment that, one of the things I mentioned earlier was working with the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Commission to vet out, what the phasing, what to do, and definitely take in that component when evaluating and proposing a future phase for Abendschein Park. That you're right, we have to take in consideration the whole dynamic now that the referendum has put into place. Just so happened the timing of this plan and the referendum the timing didn't turn out well. That it would have been nice if we could have had that answer in the beginning of this project and not, at the end. But yeah, it's a 10-year plan. In 10 years, lots of things can change. And maybe the first phase isn't the baseball diamond, because we have that flux with Little League and with the school district. So maybe that's the first thing on the docket. Maybe it's the second or third. Don't know. We have multiple phases. There's lots of things we can do with this park. And so we'll be working with not only, as I said, the Parks Commission, but also the Plan Commission. So hopefully when it gets to the Common Council, it'll be vetted out. We'll have a good rationale as to why we're proposing what we are. And who knows, maybe Abendschein Park lights go in, but not the turf, or the turf goes in, but not the lights. I mean, we don't know. Or maybe we work on the community pavilion instead of, the baseball diamond.
And I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and thank you for letting me talk a little bit longer. But when it comes to, for those of you who may not understand some of the logistics with regards to baseball, freshman and JV games normally have time limits. So we're talking 2 hours, 15 minutes. So at a 4:30 springtime high school game and early in the season, you're done in time, usually, with a time limit. Varsity has no time limits. So as the season goes on, the daylight increases and you don't run into a problem. So lights at Abendschein could be a benefit because in the summertime, you may or may not need lights, but sometimes it gets cloudy out there, you turn the lights on. So lights for high school spring baseball are a good thing. So you may look at this whole plan and go, well, maybe Abendschein baseball field, besides the left field issue, may or may not need all these improvements. Who knows? Because we don't know what the ball field at East is going to bring. We don't know, what Little League could play in the whole process. All right, thank you.
Other comments from council? Anybody, Mike?
Yeah, I'm really thinking out of the box here. I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because I want this whole thing moved to the lakefront. I think everybody knows in the council how I feel about, and I'm not. It's not to say I want to abandon Abendschein plan. That's not. It's a community park. It's located in the central part of our city. It's very important, and it's very important to maintain what we already have there. But in my humble opinion, I think this plan overspends on Abendschein Park, and a lot of these funds or impact fees should be dedicated to the lakefront. That's been I brought this up at strategic planning. Everybody's heard me talk about it before. I won't waste a lot of time on it, but I want to say thank you to Pete and everybody that served on the committee. I mean, obviously, this took a lot of time and effort to put this thing together. It's a very well-prepared document, and I do support the vision for this park, but I think some of these amenities that we're proposing at Abendschein would better fit Lake Vista right now, especially the open-air pavilion. There's a lot of opportunities on the lakefront. That area of the city right now, Drexel, is pretty well built out. You are going to get more park participation and people that use the park by improving the amenities. But you have a huge opportunity at the lakefront with development, residential, possible convention center, maybe a hotel down there. You add the amenities to Lake Vista like you've got planned for Abendschein, and you're going to see one heck of a boom on the lakefront. So I hope the council is open-minded on that. I've got a couple of questions, as long as I got the floor here. What do we have in our current funding, our bank with impact fees? Is there a number that?
Approximately 1.6 million.
1.6. And are there any projections moving forward as to how that would play out as far as impact? I know that's a hard number to come up with, but over a 5 or 10 year period, was that part of a discussion? What would be available to spend?
Well, that's going to be part of the discussion when coming up with a phase is the funding source. Some of it will be park impact fees. At least from my point of view, the intent is not to drain that account strictly for Abendschein Park. The idea would be we would use that would be one funding stream. We do have, if we were to do any of the bike trails, we do have a bikeway fund that we could tap into. There are grants that are out there that we could use as other funding streams. And of course, there's always the request for the general fund, I would think, that, depending on how much support there is for a particular project. That's why this is not a 1, 2, 3 year plan. This is a 10-year plan. And, the hope is to have it all complete within that decade. But we updated the plan back in 2008. And that was an update from 2000. And we still, in 2008, we had an 8-phase proposal. We completed 3. And we've been doing it in a very premeditated way that, can we cover the cost? Can we find alternative funding for these projects? It's not as if staff is looking at, hey, we got a 1.6 million kitty to do what we want at Ebonshine Park, because we know that those park impact fees are to be spread across the whole city. It was back in 2008, 2009. Before that, park impact fees were regulated to where they were collected. So if they were collected as part of, let's say, Eastbrook Preserve subdivision, that impact fees collected from that subdivision would have to be used in that area, in that neighborhood, because we have 26 neighborhoods off the top of my head, I can't recall. It would be stuck in there. And not to digress too far, but the state realized that it hurts the neighborhoods that are completely developed and they have like $500 sitting in park impact fees, and what are you going to do in the Edgewood neighborhood? It's built out already. $500 isn't going to go very far to acquire parkland or provide a new amenity in any of the neighborhood parks. So they changed the rule, said you can combine all your impact fees that you collect and you can use it throughout the city. And so staff believes, would always propose spreading out those fund dollars throughout the city. One of our goals in the park and open space plan was to find a neighborhood park in the southwest corner of the city. Right now we're proposing the one over on 13th and Ryan, maybe even expanding that, trying to fill those gaps in, and we'd probably, use fees to help enhance that particular project using park impact fees. So the 1.6 million is going to be throughout the park. Some might go to Lakefront, some might go to Southwest, some might go into some neighborhood parks. One of the proposals the Parks Commission is going to be considering is expanding our bikeway plan that we have in our park and open space plan. So I guess I just, I don't want you to think that all the money that we have generated through park impact fees is going to Ebonshine Park. That is not the intent or the plan.
Was there a breakdown on the biggest ticket item was the pavilion, the open air pavilion, right? What was the approximate cost just on the pavilion?
Depending on the route we choose, it can vary greatly. This one included
at the $2 million.
The $2 million, but that included the splash pad. The way I described the playground, we had a lot of interest in replicating Kayla's Park out in Franklin. We don't have that in Oak Creek to have something like that next to the pavilion. So that way, when you have a non-alcoholic event at the community pavilion, you would watch your kids at the playground, at the agility course, at the volleyball court. And so depending on, those aspects, if you take out the splash pad, I bet you that'd be a big chunk that would reduce that $2 million project or phase. The pavilion right now, the way it's designed, it could be scaled down. It could be enclosed. I mean, there's so many things that could be done. That is a large ballpark figure. So $2 million can be pared down if you just want to say, okay, we're just going to put the pavilion up there and that's it. Well, that's not going to be a $2 million pavilion. That might be a $500,000, $600,000 structure, which would be more affordable when it comes to looking at the cost from impact fees.
I know in here, I read this whole thing, and I think there was a reference to exploration of public-private partnerships too. Is that still something that was discussed? Or?
Oh, definitely, and I think we would have to vet that out more. As of right now, I mean, it's a concept. We would find partners. Milwaukee County was able to successfully do that with St. Francis Brewery and I believe one other person to run one of their community buildings and help renovate it, upgrade it, put money into it. Not saying that would necessarily be our model, but there are models out there that we could partner with a private firm to do it. There is a 501c3 that has been created in Oak Creek for the creation of a community pool. She's working on raising funds to be able to establish that somewhere in the city of Oak Creek. So maybe down the road when, she has enough, has lots of, seed money on that, maybe we could partner with that particular organization for that kind of amenity.
I know just recently the Milwaukee County Park System was looking into selling off some of their golf courses. I know they're having a hard time maintaining them. They're not making any money. They're losers. And they also looked into public-private partnerships with vending, food venues and beverage venues. So that's something I would support moving forward, because I think that's the answer. You're going to have a lot of, I just think this whole plan is spreading us just a little bit too thin, given the fact that now we have Lake Vista, and I just don't see a big chunk of dollars, and we don't really have a lot in reserve right now. I just don't see the two parks developing at the rate that we would expect as residents of the city. So just as part of just my opinion, I think we should be concentrating on Lake Vista. I know I'm probably in the minority here, but that's about all I have to say.
No, I think they can both move along. Keep in mind, Abendschein had a 6-phase plan out years back. Quite frankly, it never got completed.
Right,
Because
but that was before Lake Vista
well,
too.
no, but things changed along the way. That plan in concept was put forward, and different phases came first, depending on affordability. Some things got dropped along the way because they were no longer in fashion by the time the plan got there. So it's really a roadmap as to what could possibly be. But like Pete said, this thing could change tomorrow based on need, want. If we got corporate partners, I brought this up for a long time, the skate park. I think we could very much get corporate partners there. I'm very much in favor of improving that skate park, but doing it with corporate partnership. And I think we could accomplish that with skate ramps and what have you. But something we have to really explore and dig into going forward, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's room for both, without a doubt, for both of them to go forward. I'm a big fan of Lake Vista, without a doubt. I think the amenities should have been built bigger and larger to begin with down there. Unfortunately, we were kind of tied financially when we did it. Now we're looking at it, and I bet you we're kind of all thinking we should have built pavilions bigger because they are generators for us. There's challenges down there in building too because of the cap, so that restricts some of the things that can go there too. So overall, I do think it's a very good plan, but I'm gonna let you guys weigh in before I go in, and we do have a couple residents that are signaling they'd like to speak. So, any other council like to go? Andrew?
Yeah, I just want to say a few things, and a lot of what I was preparing to say had been said. But first and foremost, I want to just draw back and call out the strategic plan again. You'll recall this was a significant item in our strategic action plan. Not only the kind of finalization of this park build out over the next decade or whatever, but also a lot of the cross promotion that went into city departments giving awareness and education to what they do at various city events. That was also another strategic plan item that was accomplished, and this took a lot of time for Pete and Carrie's time, additional time at these weekend and evening events, and so there's a lot of thank you that needs to go out to Pete and Carrie, the members of the Park and Rec Commission that were involved in the steering committee. So I know that would have came from you guys a little bit later, but I thought I'd just start there and give some kudos. It is an awesome plan. It's ambitious. It's progressive, and that's kind of the way we do things around here. So to echo a couple points, important for me, from my perspective, from Bridget's perspective, I would say, from looking at the finances of these things, it's very important to restate that this phasing plan is flexible. I'll remind the council that you had budgeted $190,000. It was the only number we didn't round up in the budget, so I don't know why I remember this. $190,137 to rebuild the skate park in this year's budget, 2019's budget. So I wanted to remind the council of that and remind Pete of that I think that's a perfect example of that's not going to wait till whatever these phases mean in terms of years. We were rebuilding that because there was a need given the deterioration of it. So I think that's a project we can get after right away that we were all considering doing anyway. As one example of the phasing plan is flexible. And I really do agree with Mike's comments and Dan's comments. We cannot, we shouldn't, and we won't put all of our eggs in this, in all of our financial eggs in this one basket. Mike's exactly right. We are beginning to market the lakefront opportunity to development partners, and we quickly realized that another investment in something public, a public amenity there, as an augmentation to the private investment is going to be absolutely necessary. So we are not, we are not looking at putting our eggs in one basket here, Mike, and the rest of the council. I totally agree with those comments. And to Dan's comments, to Mayor's comments, this is only going to be achieved with community partnerships, sponsorships, and more community involvement. This is not something that, even if we were to say this is the exact blueprint we're going to follow and we're going to do it over, a 7 to 10 year period or whatever the case may be, it's not going to fall solely on the back of the city of Oak Creek. So, again, just a really good job. I think all of us could point out, but, or shouldn't this be there? That's a little obtuse for this park. I had conversations with Pete about my concerns. I think we could probably, but a couple, of these recommendations to death, but just looking at overall, I think it's a really good plan. And keep in mind, the council makes the decisions on implementing the plan as they come up. So, you're not giving a blank check to, the city staff to kind of just go forward here. Obviously, all allocations will come from you, and project approvals will come from you. So you'll have that time. But I think generally speaking, from the plan itself as a concept and a vision, really well done, Pete. So in the Park Commission. So kudos to you all for that.
Rich, anything?
Yeah, I have some comments. And again, Pete, congratulations to you and the crew. Again, a plan, a vision. I can think of 3 projects that currently exist in our city that developed as an idea, a thought, or a plan. The 25th anniversary of the community center is this year. And that was a vision of a group of citizens that got together almost 50 years ago to have a gathering place for our community, to, I guess, showcase the city's entrepreneurial spirit, its togetherness, but there was nowhere to congregate. That vision became a reality. That organization is now a very integral part of our community. This right here, City Hall, Drexel Town Square, working at the community center back in the day, I went through 8 years of planning meetings that discussed redoing the City Hall at the Putes and Howell intersection, and a different vision and plan came up, and that was a successful plan. So again, I think this is just something to work off of, Pete, and very exciting. We might pick at certain aspects or areas of it, but in order to create something, truly important to our community, you have to start somewhere, and this is a great plan, Pete. So I like it. I'll be in favor of it.
Great, thank you, Rich. Greg, anything? Right.
I just would like to say that I think it's a great plan as well, echo what everybody else is saying. I myself am not very sporty. This is very focused on sports fields and the like. I like to believe that my kids think I'm a Ninja Warrior, so I do like that aspect. But I will say that when you went through the planning process, that this truly was an effort of all residents having their voices heard, putting their input in. So the positive aspect of the plan is that it was really a community effort. They were given the opportunity to voice what they want, and this ultimately is what the residents want, with the exception of the pool, which I talked about a planning as well, because it was the largest thing. But after you explained the logistics of a pool in this area and how it would work, it's obvious why that was taken out. But everything else that the public asked for was put into this plan. So thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to thank Pete and Steve and the rest of the crew. Obviously, very appreciative of the work you folks had done on this report. I don't really have the vision to kind of come up with this stuff myself, so I appreciate having actually something to look at and work off of and kind of noodle over, and especially having the experience been here long enough to actually seen the original plan from 2008, the Almenstein plan, is to actually kind of see how it evolves and the kind of the changes over generations is kind of interesting to look at. So from that standpoint, Pete and company, very, very thorough report, gives us a lot to look forward to. The baseball discussion we'll obviously have as that picture evolves. I know my colleague from the 4th advocates for his project on Lake Vista. I think both these plans can coexist in our community. This one may be a little more active in terms of kind of what it envisions and provides for our citizens. The lake obviously is a beautiful facility. I love that park myself, and as that develops, hopefully some of those amenities will help be paid for by the development down there itself. So a good place to start, a great place to reflect on, and I think positive steps moving forward. So I appreciate all the work.
Chris?
Well, as I sit on this commission, I want to thank everybody on the team that was taking part all through summer when we first started on this, and the Pete and our city staff. We really put a lot of thought, effort, and work into this whole process. And the thought process that went behind it was both deliberate and not deliberate. So many different things are, as you're asking people questions, just ideas are kind of just fleshed out. So it's great how we came about and got ideas brought forth and on the plan. To look at the vision from what it could be or not be, I'm glad that we have a template that we can move forward. So now we have something that we can take back to work to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Steve, would you like to come up before we start to wind this down? Name and address, please.
Steve Ouch, 3264 East Lindsay Lane. I just wanted to back up a little bit and talk about the baseball field. And one thing that wasn't brought up is, I believe right now there are 5 to 6 youth, basically select teams, that are playing basically most of their home games, practicing out of this city. As you know, with the school district field that they're going to be building, it's not going to change the fact that all these teams still need somewhere to play. Right now, all these other cities which just switched to spring ball are most likely going to be using some of their fields that all these teams have been playing on, like Franklin, South Milwaukee, Cudahy. A lot of these teams, and I did years ago when I was coaching the kids, that's where we all played. That's where we played our home games, was out of our city. So I believe there still is a need for another field in the city, and I still think that this turf/lights is really going to help get these teams back into the city and playing here and spending money playing in the city. So it's important that I think we get the lights, like it was said. You can do 2 games, 2 practices a night, and with the summer baseball that they're going to be doing also, that's also going to take more playing time at Almenstein, because they're going to be doing actually a summer league through the high school, which is going to actually open up to play more games probably at their field, also at Almenstein. So I just wanted to bring that up, that the need is still there. So thanks.
Great, thank you, Steve. I'm just going to do some final comments, and we'll just wrap it up. And I promise I'll keep it short. Pete, very excited about that property we're acquiring off Forest Hill. I think that's a great thing. Again, you and your staff have been thanked for that, but I don't think we can do enough. The public realizes what a good job everybody did on that. I do hope that entrance will be enhanced the same way you intend to enhance it on Drexel, because that is going to be part of the park going forward. Also, some years back, we had a young man come in and request lights at the skate park. I didn't see lights included in there. Any chance that could go in there?
Definitely. That's a detail that, may have been, missed in the listing of the different phases, but definitely that can be something that can be included in any proposed phase that is, approved by the Common Council. So we did talk about it. We had, Ted over at Streets give us a price estimate and what that would be, and that definitely be part of a proposed phase that says, put lights in the parking lot as well as the skate park.
And again, going forward, as you do that skate park, I would really like to make that effort to get some corporate sponsorship down there to enhance that skate park and relieve the city of some costs. So going forward, we'll get together on that, and I'll give you some ideas later on. Again, I think it's an ambitious plan. I think Andrew really summed it up best. In the end, council has final say over this, no matter what it becomes. That community pavilion, I myself possibly could see the farmers market moving down there and utilizing that on Saturdays once it outgrows the square, because I think in time it will outgrow the square. So it may work down there. It's hard to say what's going to happen in 5 years. We don't have a crystal ball. But again, kudos to you putting this together. It's a nice vision, without a doubt. So, any final comments or questions before we move on the final update of Abendschein? Okay, seeing none, motion.
Kirkowski will make a motion that the council adopt resolution number 12023-121818, a resolution approving the updated Abendschein Park Master Plan.
Oracle second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 17, consideration of a resolution accepting the workmanship of Edgerton Contractors and authorizing final payment. Mike.
Speaking of parks, this is the request for final acceptance and final payment for the Lake Vista Park construction. And just a quick note, this park was developed under 2 contracts, so this is the first of the 2 that we're looking to have closed out. The second one is the pavilions and some of the larger accessory structures. So don't know that I need to get into detail on what this park included. Everybody's been down to the park and have enjoyed it for really all of this past summer, and then of course the official opening of the park back in August and the beer garden. So a lot of fanfare, a lot of good comments. Very nice finished product. Really a long time coming. A lot of planning, public input, great support from the council, and challenges with the design and the construction, being that it was the brownfield site. So, other than that, I mean, the project came in. We're ready to close it out. The project came in, unit price contract. So, bids awarded on estimated quantities, paid on actual documented measured quantities. So, we've got some overages. We've got some under quantities. We've got some change orders. And in the end, we came about 7% over the awarded contract amount. I have listed here some of the larger differences. I can go in these in detail, or if you've read through them and have questions, I could try to fill you in on these. But I think the biggest items revolved around the earthwork. We had to bring in we had to find a clean source of material. That was the Franklin Quarry. So excavating, hauling, really, really big effort. Ticket system to make sure that every load that left that site was brought to that site. No stray loads. So a lot of effort on the documentation end of it as well. So again, long time coming, lots of challenges. Really happy with the finished product. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mike?
Just one on the cap, Alderman Toman. How often does the cap get inspected, Mike?
We are required to inspect that yearly.
Every year?
Yes, yeah. And in fact, I'm glad you brought that up, that this was, one of the change orders was, while we had the contractor out there, we did have them do a cap maintenance.
Okay. Is there any issues there?
No, it's in good shape. We are really here in the coming weeks. We're going to do this year's inspection of the cap, but we haven't seen anything that's really causing us any real concern. So we don't expect to find anything.
Any other questions? Motion?
I'm going to make a motion to adopt resolution number 12015, accepting the workmanship of Edgerton Contractors, Inc., and authorizing final contract payment under project number 14036.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Item 18 is consideration of acceptance of workmanship by Payne and Dolan, Inc. For the final contract project payment on project 17019. Mike?
So this was the large road rehabilitation project that was approved by council in 2017. Prepared the plans on the roads that were selected by the council. Went out to bid. Payne and Dolan was awarded the contract. As that was awarded, we had funding available to incorporate two of the pre-selected alternates, which was 11th Avenue and Farmdale Drive, two segments of road. So we constructed those. That factors into the final cost being paid out under the contract. We also took advantage of having Payne and Dolan under contract with the city and took care of two problematic railroad crossings, that being on West Putes and West Oakwood Road. So we were happy to be able to take care of those. Putes Road particularly, getting lots of calls. That was a very bad, deteriorated, and a rough ride across those tracks. And then lastly, some of the costs were accounted for on the paving of Lori Lane, and that's the graphic that you have before you. Council will recall that we had a large stormwater maintenance project in the area. You can see part of that on parcel 8218, which is a detention pond that was designed by our stormwater engineer and constructed by our DPW staff. And then they also installed a large storm sewer downstream and replaced a old deteriorated storm sewer, all part of this project. Really, the last phase was something that DPW wanted taken care of many years ago, which was that paving of that stretch of road. You can see it on the graphic. It's a little darker due to the fresh asphalt. That was a gravel temporary road for 20 years, and that was really just a secondary access for emergency vehicles. Yet it needed to be plowed. They did not. It was problematic, and it was kind of a mess because the plows are moving the stone around. So, at any rate, having Payne and Dolan mobilized in the city, we were able to get them to grade that out and to get that paved. So again, part of the overall contract. So in the end, I guess I'm explaining another cost overage, but that was those three items: the extra roads, the railroads, and Lori Lane accounted for $142,000 worth of work, which was about 15% over the original award.
Questions for Mike? Seeing none, motion.
Bill will move to approve resolution 12016121818, accepting the workmanship of Payne and Dolan, Inc., and authorizing final contract payment under project 17019.
Guzekowski will second.
Go ahead. Chris, go ahead.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 19 is consideration of a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation on the Ryan Business Park, TIA improvements, and the Ryan Road Interchange Project. Mike?
So everybody is quite aware of the DOT's project to reconstruct the Ryan Interchange Project. If you've driven anywhere near that area, you see lots of barricades and barrels. and are inconvenienced as you go through. They are in the latter stages of that project, and as we have got to this point in time, the Ryan Business Park has come upon us, and it, of course, is going to generate a lot of additional traffic and require further road improvements. So the Ryan Business Park had their traffic consultant develop the traffic impact analysis, the TIA, and as those recommended improvements became more clear here in the past several weeks, it became necessary to consider the timing of those road improvements and really the location of those. And the fact of the matter is that some of those road improvements are overlapping some of the state's interchange work. So need to consider the logic of having all of the state's work completed only to be torn up and expanded really the next construction season. And everybody thought that let's not do that. So the state came up with a plan to finish off some of these overlap work areas to an interim completion state. So they are safe. The roads will be basically fully open to what their plan called for the winter, and then the barrels will, unfortunately, in some areas along Ryan Road, reappear as the TIA work gets underway. But at any rate, there is a lot of sense in proceeding this way. So the reason for this item is that the state said, yes, let's do that, but we need some assurance that if the TIA improvements do not proceed, meaning the Ryan Business Park project doesn't happen for some reason, it's already happening. But if it doesn't, we need assurance that this road work will be done. And this MOU says that the city is responsible for doing that if the developer doesn't. We feel like this is still a good thing to save taxpayer money on road work and not have it torn up 9 months later. And that we have assurances that that work will be done as a development agreement for the Ryan Business Park gets signed.
Thank you, Mike. Questions, comments for Mike?
That development agreement has been signed, hasn't it?
It has not. It is in process now. So this is, and when
Mike,
I say
Mike,
the development.
Yeah, you were going where I was.
Right, yeah. The development agreement that I'm referring to is we generate that through the engineering department, and that is it covers the developer's responsibility for public improvements. So road work, sewers, water main, street lighting that are going to be public facilities. In the development agreement that has been signed, that goes through Andrew Bridget.
So
that's
the finance development agreement has been approved by the council and signed by the parties. He's talking about the engineering one. Exactly.
So what does this look like in the spring again? So now we've got almost the ramp's almost done, and barricades are all gonna be pulled away. Spring, you're gonna pull them all back out again to do more road work.
Right. Yes, we don't have those plans are in conceptual plan status right now. So they are, over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, the developer's engineer is going to refine those plans, get those to a biddable set, and then those will be advertised. I don't have a firm date on when we could expect them to be starting construction on that, but I imagine that may be midsummer at the earliest, just based on where we are on the calendar right now. But yes, so what you'll see as finished by the state is kind of in the interim state would be maybe some asphalt curb on the medians where their main entrance road is going to come out onto Highway 100. You'll see some sidewalk that was going to be in the terrace areas along the north and south sides of Highway 100 that does not get put in because there's going to be additional lanes put in, and then the sidewalk, and that would be covered by the TIA. And then some larger signage that are going to be right on the ramps. They're going to put those signs up. They're going to have to be relocated and expanded out a little bit. So those are the things that you're going to see. It should be fully functional. People will be relieved. They won't be happy. Let's be honest. They're going to be disappointed to see more construction. But I think we're starting to get accustomed to
one
that.
last question, just with the whole corner, say talking about 13th and Ryan, and then the interchange or the ramps, if whatever changes they're making, is that all going to kind of be all done at one fell swoop, or not necessarily? Is that going to be in phases?
I have been part of no discussions where they talked about this being phased. I believe that it's going to be we're mobilizing. We're doing this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else for Mike on this one? If not, motion.
Right. Guzekowski will make a motion that the Common Council adopts resolution number 12017-121818, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with Wisconsin Department of Transportation on the Ryan Business Park TIA improvements and Ryan Interchange Project, District 5 and 6.
Yo, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukniak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye. Item 20 is consideration of a resolution approving a funding agreement with MMSD for a PPI mitigation project in the Oakview number 3 subdivision. Mike again.
Just need to get a graphic up on the screen. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Sorry for the delay here. At our last meeting, Common Council did approve the PPII policy. That policy providing that the city can undertake PPII mitigation projects where it's determined they're warranted. In the work that's been done on the PPII so far, it's staff working with MSD and with the water and sewer utility, looking at areas where PPI mitigation are good candidates, and there are a few areas, and these areas are older residential subdivisions in the city, and really kind of congregated into the southeast portion of the city. There's been flow monitoring in conjunction and evaluating that in conjunction with rainfall events. That goes a long way towards helping us identify the areas where PPI mitigation would be beneficial, and where we would recommend and hope that we could proceed on with the project this year yet would be the Oakview number 3 subdivision. I have that up on the screen, and that is the subdivision far southeast part of the city, Studio Lane, 3rd Avenue, Alton Drive. And based on what we think we can accomplish, and this is funding wise, with this agreement, the city has to front the money, do the work, have a contractor do the work, and then apply for reimbursement through MMSD. So that limits how much work we can do on any given year. And what you see here before you is that Oakview number 3 subdivision, identified as Group A and Group B. We would do one, but not both of those in 2019. And so we would start by doing some public outreach letters and then following up with these owners. And really the recommendation of Group A versus Group B would be based on percent participation. It's voluntary on when we proceed on this project. So basically, again, we're looking for approval on this funding agreement. It's already been through MMSD. They have approved it. So we're halfway there. If the city decides we're not going to sign it, we're not going to sign it. We have committed to doing some PPI mitigation work, which I think I mentioned at the last meeting when we approved the policy, when we accepted a rather large grant to do some green infrastructure work here in Drexel Town Square a couple of years back. So we would like to we'd like to proceed. The recommendation is that we that the funding agreement gets signed, and we'd hit the ground running right away after the holidays. We've already got a meeting scheduled, so we'd like to keep that schedule. And any questions? I'd be
Thing for Mike on the MMSD. Mike.
A, then in 2019 that gets done, and then Group B gets done in 2020. Is that how that works? Or?
That would be the next logical step. If for some reason Group B, just fizzles and nobody is on board with doing the project, we might look at some of the another area. I'm hopeful though. Say that is the case. I'm hopeful though that the project goes well with Group A, and word of mouth, Group B then says, "Oh, I see what you're doing. I guess I wasn't understanding or whatever. I wasn't on board for whatever reason." We'd like to see that proceed on the next project.
So you do a mailing to both groups
Yes.
initially?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you're going to get participation. I get a lot of phone calls down there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we expect there to be tangible benefits, and I know the water and sewer utility would like to see, this is their number one spot. They'd like to see us do a project.
Start mailing.
Those would go out in January.
Anything else for Mike? Not motion. 20.
I'm going to make a motion to adopt resolution number 12018, approving a funding agreement with MMSD for a PPI mitigation project in the Oakview number 3 subdivision.
Kirkowski will second. Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye. Item 21 is consideration of a resolution accepting the workmanship of Zenith Tech and authorizing final payments to them. Mike?
And so we are looking to close out another project. This was another project that took place in 2017. This was the fairly extensive bridge rehabilitation project. I think we worked at 5 locations in the city on bridges. And really successful project. The downside of that was we spent quite a bit of money, and I can't believe I made you smile. We spent $171,000 more than the awarded amount on the project. Now, again, this is, it might sound like a broken record, but this is a unit price contract, and so we do the best we can as we're designing these projects to get a good estimate of quantities. Bridges are tough because as you proceed with the rehabilitation work, there's a process they go through. They call it sounding on the bridges, where they're dragging these chains across them, and we've got our bridge consultant with kind of this trained ear saying, okay, you got to take out more here. You have to take out more there, and it's basically getting that fractured concrete of the bridge deck away from the reinforcing steel, so that what is left is a good, strong base, and then you rebuild it up from there. So that was kind of the gist of the work on all of these structures. The Nicholson Bridge, we did some underside work of the bridge deck. Most of the work was on the other bridges were on the surface of the deck. The Putes Road box culverts had wing wall replacements and new beam guard. So a little varied from site to site, but again, we got to pay. We got to pay for what they do. And we were in agreement with them on what needed to come out, what needed to be replaced, and we measured it up, and we paid them for it. The big one you'll see as we got them kind of split out was Wildwood. We had there had been a bridge deck overlay, which we were not aware of, so something in our records that we didn't see that, and so we had to remove a lot of concrete off that deck, and then we also had, because of that, to redo the approaches so that you had a good ride over the bridge. So in the end, we improved 6 bridges in the city, and we're going to we're going to extend their lives, probably a couple of decades before we'll have to do anything major on them again. Maybe replace them, or maybe we can redeck them again. But so, and we worked hard with this contractor to get to agreeable final quantities. They were looking for, we didn't have quite the agreement on it, but in the end, they did accept our numbers.
Bridget?
If I could just add for some of the newer council members and the public, when we're looking at now 3, we've kind of been over project or over budget on these items. This isn't just a phantom number. This is a situation where Mike and his department are then talking with me as they're going through the construction process, saying, okay, we're getting these change orders, or we're getting these quantities that are coming in higher. And luckily, in the past years here in the past, Mike's been under budget in some of his projects, and so we've had funds that have been sitting out from past projects that we've been able to tap and utilize to cover these overages, so we haven't had to typically come back to the Common Council asking for additional funds or allocating from the future CIP budget year. So just for the record, this isn't just a number that floats out into space. It is something that we have to recover. We have to find those funds and then cover that contract.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? None. Motion. Clerk moves that the council approve resolution number 12020-121818, accepting the workmanship of Zenith Tech, Inc., and authorizing final payment for project number 12016.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Item 22, consideration of a resolution authorizing the CIP recommended road improvement projects
be advertised for public bid for rehabilitation in 2019. Mike?
And so we met with the CIP committee November 29th, so just a few weeks back, and presented them with kind of a menu of roads that could go out as a bid package. I think there was 3 options, and this was based on the software we use to input our road ratings and our budget and our type of recommended rehabilitation on these roads, and it gives us these options. So we gave those to the CIP committee. We discussed them and came up with the recommendation that you have before you. There were there was a road that was added on, which is segment 9, Shire Place. That was one that the DPW had asked be included. And there was also a road segment number 8, Pennsylvania Avenue from Ryan Road to Putes Road. And what we want to do is proceed with an asphalt sealing of that roadway. So different than the type of repair that we've been doing, really, as long as I've been here with the city, which is not a mill and overlay. This would be a treatment to a road that has not deteriorated to a reconstruction type of a rehabilitation. Pennsylvania Avenue is rated a 6 on a scale of 0 to 10 on the PASER ratings, and this was something that we've been thinking about doing for many years. It's something that we evaluated further as we did our strategic action plan white paper on CIP funding alternatives. This was a major recommendation that we look at doing some of this type of work yearly to keep some of our roads that are still in good shape, to do these less costly maintenance procedures to not only prolong their useful life, but prolong them in a good condition, rideability, and really slowing that deterioration curve. And so we would like to proceed with that segment as well. And then we want to see how it performs, and if indeed it is something that we want to do more of in the coming years.
Questions for Mike? Comments? Okay. Seeing none, motion.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Common Council adopts resolution number 12021-121818, a resolution authorizing the CIP recommended road improvement projects to the advertised public bid for rehabilitation in 2019, various districts.
Oracle second. Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Item 23 brings us to the License Committee. I'd like to turn that over to Alderman Kirkowski at the moment.
Thank you, Mayor. I assume the council members have had an opportunity to review the Common Council report. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, Kirkowski will make a motion to adopt the License Committee recommendations as listed on the December 18, 2018 License Committee report.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And item 24 is our vendor summary report for December 12, 2018. Please take a look and please direct your questions to Bridget, Mike, or the appropriate person that needs to be asked. Probably Mike.
There's no questions? Motion.
Gail will move to approve the December 12th, 2018 vendor summary report in a combined total amount of $421,285.28.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukniak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Before we adjourn, Alderman Kirkowski would like to make a very brief comment on item 16.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry I didn't think about this earlier, but I just want to, for the council's knowledge with regards to the ball field. Mr. Botch made some very valid comments with regards to select teams that have moved out of the city because of facilities. And just want to note that the younger teams that play in a 70-foot diamond have generally played at East Middle School, and high school softball is a spring sport, so by the time these teams are playing, it usually isn't a problem. Going now to spring baseball for high school for JV or freshmen and above, they always were in a summer season. They primarily monopolize, don't say monopolize in a bad sort of way, but when you got three programs using one field, they were always there. So those teams generally had to find another place to go play because high school was always there until like early July, and by then their seasons are half over. So I just want to say that by going to spring ball, Abendschein is really going to become more available for teams to use the ball field. And he is correct. There's a new league that's being formed that's going to be all high school age kids, and it's going to take the place of summer baseball, but they're going to play in a recreational environment. And I saw the list of teams: Oak Creek, Franklin, Martin Luther, Greendale, Muskego. I mean, all these teams are all going to be playing all over the place. So I would assume that the Oak Creek level teams will be playing back at Abendschein for the summer, and then they'll be competing for space and time with the youth team. So you're going to see more activity at Abendschein with baseball, even though there's only spring ball. You're going to see a lot more usage over there.
Thank you, Steve. Going forward, I got just a couple short announcements. This is really appropriate, and I probably should have did this while a lot of the parks people were here. On a sad note, our long-term past park chair, Janet Fugel, passed away December 8th. If any of you ever had the pleasure of meeting Janet, she was a very colorful figure here in the city. She chaired our Parks Commission for 31 years. And when she resigned, she asked for no proclamation. She didn't want any fanfare. She was a very humble woman. She'll be greatly missed, but her accomplishments here over 31 years will be greatly enjoyed by all the residents of the city. So please keep Janet Fugel's family in your thoughts and prayers this holiday season. We appreciate that. Next, I just would like to remind you the giving trees are still out there. There's tags available. Many things have been brought in. There's one more day. It's all going to the Salvation Army. Please help somebody out a little less fortunate than yourself at this holiday season. This is our last council meeting of the year. I'd like to wish you all happy holidays and a very happy and safe new year. And I'd like to wish that to the residents too. So again, it's been a pleasure. It's been a great year in Oak Creek, and especially want to thank the City Hall staff. I do this regularly, but again, things do not get done without our full-time city staff, and that's from our protective services right on through streets, water, park and rec, library, everybody, to our city attorneys. They're very hardworking, and they are serving the public. So thank you all, and again, enjoy your holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Adjournment, please.
Kirkowski make a motion to adjourn.
Oracle second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukniak.
Thank you.